A very good morning to everyone joining us today for this important webinar that we are holding, which is part of a series. This webinar is part of a series of dialogues aimed at building a bridge between Indigenous peoples, their territories, their experiences, specifically in the carbon market. And let's say that more than figures and data about the market, what is central here are the voices and experiences from the perspective of those who develop and are directly involved in these projects, specifically Ready Plus. All of this revolves around the entire topic of carbon market. Today, we have the honor of having panelists who represent, let's say, organizations of indigenous peoples in Colombia, as well as a perspective from the international market. So today we are joined by Mateo Estrada, who is an advisor to UPIAC, the National Organization of Indigenous Peoples of the Colombian Amazon, a key voice in the defense of territory and in engagement with conservation initiatives. We are also joined by Arve Calcido, who is the legal representative of the association and who will share with us the direct perspective of the communities in the processes and development of carbon market projects. And we also have Oksana Cheleznova from CarbonMark, who will be joining this webinar to share her experience on how these local projects are connected with the global dynamics of the carbon market. We thank all of you for being here, for accepting this invitation to dialogue, and for being the pioneers in this series of conversations that we will be having over the coming months. And now, to officially kick off this highly anticipated webinar, we are truly honored to invite each and every one of our distinguished panelists to share a bit more about their extensive and valuable experiences in successfully developing and implementing various market projects within diverse and dynamic economic landscapes. So I'll now hand it over to Mateo and Arvi, who will talk to us a bit about what their extensive experience has been like within the various communities actively developing these crucial carbon market projects, as well as the valuable lessons they have learned and the significant challenges they've encountered along their journey and throughout the entire process.
Okay, thank you very much. A very good morning to everyone present. First of all, I want to thank EcoRadios for the invitation, and on behalf of the 2017 Indigenous Communities of Authorities, I wish you all a very good morning. We are here ready to continue and to contribute as well. I believe every story is told from a different perspective, and I am here to collaborate with all of you. Thank you very much. Yes, good morning to everyone. Sorry if there is any interference in the audio. Right now we are in the city of Mitu and there is a heavy rainstorm. So, what is our project about? Our project is essentially a carbon market, or living forest as it is called in Spanish. It is about capturing CO2 or carbon in the Amazon rainforest, specifically in the Opes area. We have been developing this work in partnership with the companies Proambiente and Los Bosques, which are our developer companies. This process has been ongoing since 2021. That was our first stage, our initial approaches, and our first sales. We have had certain experiences at different times. Things have gone quite well for us in many ways. People have been very pleased. There has always been a dialogue among the partners. And I'll say it again, the alliance is like a mother, our ally. What is the basis of our project? Our project is based on improving the quality of life of our indigenous communities. You might ask us how. At this time, we are developing several projects. One of the most important was the acquisition of a bus, a Chiva bus, because at that time, the Department of Opes or the municipality of Mitu did not have a vehicle or a bus that could run a route from the municipality to the indigenous villages to the indigenous communities. In this way, we provided land transportation services, which benefited not only our youth, our Chagra working mothers, and our elders, who in many cases did not have their own means of transportation. And that really helped us improve the quality of life because first we were able to generate commerce within the municipality of Mitu. That is, the products we harvested from our chagras were transported on this bus along with their owners to the municipality, where we could sell them, generating economic activity, right? The income generated there went directly into the hands of our own people, allowing us to adequately meet our daily or even our everyday basic needs, as we used to frequently say. Land transportation not only benefited the areas up above, but also our allied partners like Sonatican and the companions along the highway who are ATAD, so it was a collective benefit. One of the other projects we also launched was river transportation. One of the things about the OPOS department is that it is a very spread out area, and the department does not help cover all those needs. So we had a lot of people in communities who needed to go up or move around and didn't have access to that kind of river transport. At that time, through that project, we acquired some outboard motors and some skiffs as well. Previously, we used to get around with canoes, or as they're commonly called, chalupas. And even so, our powerful river is exceptionally fast flowing. Consequently, there were numerous days when people had to laboriously paddle up these challenging channels, painstakingly dragging their heavy cachiveras and constantly risking their precious lives. In a significant way, this innovative project genuinely helped to make that entire arduous process much more feasible and considerably more efficient in terms of valuable time. In this way, we were also able to address the issue of referrals. When we were informed about an elder, as I said before, or an elder, whether it was an elder, a person, or a child, it was very difficult for us to transport them in chalupas to the health posts. So that project has helped us a lot, really a lot. It has successfully met that fundamental basic need for efficient river transport, where people have truly been very happy and genuinely satisfied. And we also had significant housing improvement projects implemented. Unfortunately, there are indeed precarious situations, right? All departments certainly have them, but right now, with the significant Aridity Plus funds that came directly to the association, the legal representative at that particular time thoughtfully launched a comprehensive housing improvement project where we truly saw a remarkable and positive change in the homes within our communities, specifically new and sturdy zinc sheets, improved windows, and other essential things that really hadn't arrived in many, many years. So all of this is based on the idea that first, I believe red projects work depending on how they are implemented. If there is a strategy, if there is a guiding framework, right? That's why we always work hand in hand with the developers. Unfortunately, at this time, there is no indigenous association that can say, I have the financial resources to meet the basic needs of my communities. So we also form alliances with institutions like the regional government, where we work hand in hand with the government, the mayor's office, or private entities. We provided the human talent and kept moving forward. All of that honestly has been a very rewarding experience, not just for me, but for my entire community. For my entire community, we are working together hand in hand. We have a very good team. We keep moving forward. I'll say it again, all of this is possible because it's done within a framework of respect, dialogue, and ancestral knowledge. Welcome, Kuchuto. Good morning.
Well, thank you very much, Arve, for that introduction. And honestly, it's very enriching to see, let's say, that day to day experience in the development of these projects. I think we have Jesus Alberto here with us. Jesus Alberto is also an integral part of this esteemed organization, specifically this ASA Tripa Association. So please tell us, Jesus Alberto, along those very important lines, how exactly has it been for you in this significant project, in the crucial Plus carbon market projects? What precisely have been the day to day challenges and the valuable opportunities you've encountered and successfully navigated with these particular projects?
President Arvey. To everyone in the room, greetings, and let me introduce myself. My name is Jesus Alberto Garzon. I am a lawyer. In this case, I am participating in this space as the legal advisor for the Association of Traditional Indigenous Authorities of Bajo Vaupés, ASATRIPA. The very first and most important thing that absolutely must be said and clearly understood is that our esteemed association and all of our diverse communities have not been entirely unaffected by the challenging realities and significant pressures currently facing the global carbon markets, and in particular, the various REDD Plus projects that are, in some significant way, actively intervening in the complex process of commercializing the valuable carbon certificates. So we are going to share with you the valuable experience of Asa Tripa, but it should be clearly understood that this particular situation is by no means significantly different from the fundamental realities faced by numerous other projects, whether operating at the national or indeed the international level. And so the fundamental expectation is that from this particular and expansive space, we can precisely identify what our comprehensive expectations are regarding our direct and active participation in the entire carbon markets value chain. To effectively do that, we unequivocally need to start by carefully articulating several important things. The first crucial point is that with the significant precedent already firmly established by the ruling T248, a clear and undeniable precedent has indeed been set regarding precisely what is fundamentally required to fully guarantee the direct and meaningful participation of indigenous peoples within these specific markets. There is already significant and widespread talk of a concerning lack of adequate regulation, of the pressing need to substantially strengthen due diligence processes, and of the crucial need to genuinely raise standards regarding comprehensive consultation and truly free, prior, and informed consent. So the very first and most important thing that absolutely must be said and clearly understood is that there is a significant regulatory need for comprehensive consultation and thorough due diligence that absolutely must be properly addressed and meticulously fulfilled. This is not merely a matter of arbitrary whim or subjective preference, nor is it about perhaps questioning the fundamental legitimacy that each and every one of these crucial initiatives genuinely requires within the specific territory and its unique context. So regarding the ruling, it must be said that we agree with the court that there are things that need to be done. Now, it should also be acknowledged that the ruling had some reputational implications for all the actors in the voluntary market. And of course, we agree that in those cases where communities have seen their rights violated, whether it be consultation or their territory, then of course, mechanisms must be put in place to prevent those violations. And in cases where those violations have already occurred, mechanisms must be established to mitigate the effects of those violations. However, that does not mean that all the projects currently in the voluntary market suffer from, let's say, those issues or incidents that have occurred in some cases. And that is perhaps the very first and most important message we truly wish to convey in this specific instance. The significant Makaru Wapuro project of the Association of Traditional Indigenous Authorities of the Loa Vope has consistently been a collaborative process, carefully built together with the local communities and thoughtfully developed within their territory. At this precise moment, we now have the association fully prepared and ready to begin participating as directly and comprehensively as possible in the entire overarching process, so that those on the other side, and indeed all those who, as a direct result of everything that has profoundly happened, not only at the national level, but also internationally, can be absolutely certain that this is a truly authentic project, meticulously built hand in hand with the communities themselves. And this is profoundly important for, let's say, for a multitude of compelling reasons. The very first and foremost reason is that at the international level, there has been, if you will, a significant and noticeable halt or a considerable slowdown in the operational carbon markets as a direct and undeniable result of various substantial criticisms that have emerged from numerous different places and diverse perspectives regarding the fundamental integrity and overall effectiveness of the projects themselves, particularly those designed to mitigate carbon emissions and promote sustainable development. But at the international level, there is a lot of talk about integrity in environmental terms. So it is said that projects are built with inflated baselines or reference levels, that the expected results are not being seen. In other words, investments are being made, but the reductions cannot be verified. And with the precedent set in Colombia by ruling T248, now there are also significant doubts about the social and cultural integrity of these projects in the country. What we want to clearly articulate here is, and in fact, this would be the absolutely perfect moment to highlight this crucial exploratory phase we have been undertaking with Eco-Registry, to comprehensively inform you that here, both the dedicated registry platform and the official certifier, as well as we, the diligent holders of the significant Makaru Wapuro project, are working decisively and collaboratively to achieve the direct and efficient commercialization of valuable carbon certificates. We understand that on one hand, there are people who are interested in acquiring the certificates, in investing in the projects that exist in the territories. And on our side, even though our interest is not business, we are not viewing commercialization as a business. We see commercialization as an opportunity to realize our right to autonomy and our right to self-determination. So we are betting on being able to carry out that direct commercialization ourselves. This will bring us some benefits that we believe are real. And for example, on the side of those who want to acquire the certificates, those who want to invest in the Makaru Wapuro Network project, they will have the confidence that the risk or the guarantee of the rights to the social and environmental integrity of the project is ensured. And that precisely in this case, the Asa Traipa Association functions as a coordinating mechanism between the decisions. From the association to the community, from the association to the state, from the association to the certifier, to the validation and verification body. And in that case, we become, in a way, we ourselves are our own guarantors of the right to consultation and consent. We are not here worried that a third party is going to come and violate our rights. No, we ourselves are taking care and making sure that no one tramples on the rights of our communities. So I think that's an important element. And of course, with all the recognition and implications that the ruling has had, surely the certification standards, surely the validation and verification bodies have shown that there is a need to strengthen the examination carried out at each stage of the project regarding compliance with social and environmental safeguards and the fulfillment of the guarantee of the right to autonomy and the self-determination of peoples.
Well, Jesus, I think we had some issues here with the communication. I think you're back now. You're back with us. Can you hear us well?
Okay. I'm not sure where I left off.
I think you were probably already finishing up your remarks. That was my impression.
Yes, I more or less remember where I was, so I can pick up from there. So I was telling you, did you hear the whole first part about the need for direct commercialization of the certificates?
Yes, we only heard the last 6 minutes. Yes, just the last 3 to 6 minutes or so.
Okay. So as I was saying, what do we need then to be able to move forward with this process of direct commercialization of the certificates? As I was saying, first, integrity, which is what I just mentioned, right? Second, fortunately, we don't have any issues with this, which is the ownership of the project. Anyone who checks the Eco Registry website will see that in this case, the two associations that remain in the project are listed as the owners. And of course, we need to move forward in being able to control and directly manage the platform ourselves as the owners. But those are indeed conditions that are already firmly in place, conditions that have already been fully and completely met. And in this significant way, we truly believe that those on the other side, specifically the project investors, can rest absolutely assured that when it comes to the utmost integrity and ethical conduct, this particular project already has received the unequivocal green light and full approval. Now, autonomy and self-determination must be translated into something practical that actually addresses situations which at times have undermined the trust of the stakeholders. So, we have consistently called for greater autonomy and decision-making power over how resources are managed, and why not, to be able to execute them directly ourselves. But we are aware that this can't just be something that turns into pocket money. No, we are aware that a mechanism needs to be designed to allow for oversight of the management, investment, and execution of these resources. We are fully aware of that, but what we are saying right now is that we should have a greater degree of autonomy as authorities, as an association, for the execution of these resources. A third element has to do with transparency, right? So we need to strengthen what Eco Registry does a great job, but we can still further enhance all the traceability work that is being done so that especially the person on the other end always has the certainty not only of compliance and the integrity of the project, but also the peace of mind that the certificate they are acquiring is indeed a valid certificate, that it belongs to them, that the transfer will be carried out, let's say, properly. And I believe that in this regard, progress can be made with the certifier and with the validation and verification body, as we have already mentioned. It's about strengthening the review of compliance with social and environmental safeguards. In the case of Makawapuro, this has been done in a very appropriate way, and fortunately, it has been possible to demonstrate that the project's goals have been met. But I say this in the entire national and international context where there is so much distrust that surely there will be other processes in which this can be strengthened. And of course, to strengthen everything related to monitoring, reporting, and verification. Finally, the fourth point, which I want us to focus on here, because it may be what gives us the missing gem in the crown, is that we need to have direct access to the process of commercialization, to the marketing of the certificates. And for that, we need first to be able to participate directly as an association in national and international carbon market events. Second, we need to have direct communication, dialogue, and relationships with the buyers. And third, through a joint effort, I believe, between the validator, the certifier, the registry platform, and us as project owners, we should be able to join forces so that the project can obtain an accreditation, in addition to already being under a major certification standard, that the proper is achieved, that what is achieved, that the proper quality accreditation is achieved with some quality standard, which has already been discussed as well. So I think those are perhaps some of the elements that that add to this point, and it's about how we achieve a greater degree of direct, real, and effective participation of indigenous peoples, and in this case of the Asa Triba Association and the communities and authorities it represents in the carbon certificate market. That would be it, Sarah, President Arbey, Leonardo over there, whom I also see. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jesus Alberto. I think that in that closing, precisely, he makes a point that we hope to continue as a dialogue in this series of meetings that we are going to have with the different indigenous peoples. And well, I want to give way in that order of ideas. I believe Leonardo Caicedo, also from the association, is joining us. Yeah, Leonardo, tell us a bit about what your experience has been like regarding or those perspectives you have, those challenges you face around the participation of communities in carbon markets. Welcome.
Very good morning to you, Doctor. Can you hear me clearly and well?
Yes, perfectly. Yes, sir.
Very good morning, Doctor. My Dr. Jesus, good morning. President, good morning.
Good morning.
A very warm and heartfelt greeting to each and every one of you present here today. In any case, for us indigenous peoples, this is a new topic. But as a significant amount of time has progressively gone by, well, we genuinely see it as a valuable opportunity for continued support for our esteemed association. Let me tell you. I'm almost one of the founders of the area. My parents, many leaders, we started in an organized way in the 70s, 73, with that whole movement of reclaiming the rights of indigenous peoples around the world and in Latin America. And as a result of that, what was called at the time UNIBABA was created, the Union of Indigenous Peoples of the Lower Bojorques. Then in the years 2000, 2001, and 2003, more or less, it became ALUBA, due to the influence of the priests at that time. ALUBA stood for Anima Animation and the Struggle of the Lower Bojorques. Later, with Law 88, it became Asa Triba, with the sole final objective of defending the territory, its inhabitants, and the elements that make it up. Our traditional mindset has always been one of conservation, and the way of life of indigenous peoples has been as simple as possible in harmony with nature. We have our life plan, which was built over many years, agreed upon community by community with their authorities, with the leaders, the women, the supporters, and so on. We also have our environmental zoning plan for the area, which we developed together with the CDA and the Ministry of the Environment. The inputs, the research that the authorities themselves, the people themselves carried out, but always focused on the care of the territory. As always happens, these instruments were created together with the authorities, and although they were made officially and through consensus, and they include our needs to address our problems, especially focused on strengthening our communities and our way of life, they did not resonate with the municipal or departmental administrations, nor at the local level. As it happens in life, and due to life circumstances, well, I'm not a traditional politician, but the people of Bojorques elected me as a congressman for the years 1998-2002. I was one of the speakers for the Kyoto Protocol when Colombia adopted that regulation. And in the considerations, in the preambles, and while conducting studies, I saw at that time an opportunity for those of us who live in the forests, in the jungles. And from there, we've been working on something that at the time no one believed me about. But in the end, it has become a reality. We already have some considerable experience. Even though this is quite new for us, I think a truly responsible job has been diligently done, working together in close collaboration with our partners and those who are supporting us. Of course, we've faced various difficulties, and there is a clear need to adjust and redirect, as Dr. Jesus so eloquently mentioned. We absolutely need to improve the work in that specific regard. As always, one of the principles of indigenous organizations, and Asatriba is no exception, is the principle of autonomy, right? We always respect our partners who have supported us, and they will always be with us within a framework of mutual respect, and also respecting our autonomy, our plans, our decisions, and what we want to do in the future for our territory. At the time, we saw this as an opportunity, as Dr. Jesus said, as an opportunity for support to strengthen our way of life. There are many needs in our territory, but I think that through the experience we had, in some way, we started to move forward. We began to make our own history. We started to show our partners that we do indeed have the capabilities in place to begin to take on the management of many things ourselves, not just in those areas, but also in other areas where we, as indigenous peoples, have made progress with different governments. But focusing on that topic, I agree with what has been said. I think the president is on the same page, in my opinion. All of this starts with being able to identify ourselves, to understand each other, to comprehend one another as we look to the future. Hopefully, we will have a happy ending in the management of this issue, and within the principle of autonomy for indigenous peoples, we will always be respectful. And in fact, we are from this moment on. I think that legally and juridically, Jesus expanded on the topic further. And I believe we are on the same track. We are taking a firm, clear, precise, and responsible step to, from now on, assume our responsibilities, what we have to do, and what is our duty for the good of the project. With that, I think I'll finish by greeting all of you, and we hope to continue this conversation in the future. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Leonardo. Also for that welcome you gave to the audience present here today. So I'd like to move on a bit now in this conversation with Mateo Estrada. Mateo Estrada, let's say, is here today as a representative of OPIAT, the Organization of Indigenous Peoples in Colombia, specifically of the Amazonian Indigenous Peoples in Colombia. And I would like to learn a bit about OPIAT's perspective regarding carbon markets in Colombia. What have been the opportunities or the risks that you have identified? Or what do you see for the communities of the Amazon? And well, what message would you like to give today to everyone, to our audience who is connected?
Thank you very much. Warmest greetings to absolutely everyone who is presently connected to this very important and engaging panel, this virtual forum. My name is Mateo Estrada Cordova, and it is a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I am an advisor to OPIAT. Our fundamental role as an organization is to comprehensively support the various processes that actively take place within the territory whenever and wherever they are genuinely needed. Let's say OPIAT, as Mr. Solo prominently mentioned, is deeply involved in the crucial READY+ issue, which is a significant and ongoing concern. Yes, it is something new for indigenous peoples. It's an initiative that can contribute, right, to organizational strengthening of culture, and that strengthening of culture through knowledge systems leads to the conservation, right? That essential protection and that truly responsible use of our precious natural environment here in this specific territory, right? But this Amazonian territory, where indigenous peoples live, faces some threats, some impacts, some difficulties, right? Which cannot be solved solely by indigenous institutions, indigenous authorities, or indigenous government. but rather truly require the active involvement, the crucial support, right, from subnational governments, the national government, right, and indeed other relevant governmental bodies and international organizations as well, international organizations, but also from the private sector, right, from companies, industries, corporations, right? Furthermore, in order to face this challenge that, let's say, the indigenous peoples of the Colombian Amazon have, and in this case, each of the indigenous institutions that exist, such as Asatriba in Vaupés, right? One of the approaches, let's say, to do this work, many have been identified, but one of them, which let's say many can even contribute resources, but it's not about resources. It's about the fact that it's more than just resources, right? It's about making sure there aren't actions that harm those resources, because there are opportunities in the Amazon. There's the territory, right? There are legal or illegal miners offering money. He says, look, I want to help. You have this potential. I want to, how much do you need? Let's work together. Let's end poverty. Let's create jobs. I'll buy you transportation. I'll bring education, healthcare. But it's a miner saying this. But the same is said by those who work in illicit crops in coca. Oh, look, you're living in poverty, you have needs. Look, your child isn't studying. If we plant coca, you'll have resources, you'll be able to improve your quality of life. And it's the same with the loggers. So what has been identified by indigenous institutions, indigenous organizations, indigenous movements, we've said, look, there are other financial mechanisms that aren't as harmful as the others. One of these has been the voluntary carbon mechanism, RADD+, right, which is a crucial and vital option to effectively complement, robustly support, and significantly strengthen existing indigenous institutions, indigenous organizations, and indigenous cultures so that they can adequately protect, diligently conserve, and sustainably manage their ancestral lands and traditional ways of life, those territories. So for them, this has an exceptionality, which in this case are there are the cabildos, as they are called in some places. In our case, for example, in Botes, we call them capitania, which are public institutions of a special nature. And their authorities are also public authorities of a special nature, even though they are not government officials. There are also the ATIS, which are almost quasi-territorial entities, but recently Decree 488 was just issued, which states indigenous territories are territorial entities. In this case, they are subnational governments. So this particular approach fundamentally means that the overall situation and the intricate relationship with various different actors at the regional, national, and international levels will inevitably have to significantly change over time. So one of those significant challenges is, let's say, that the fundamental relationship these governments have should be directly, for example, with the national government, not through any intermediaries whatsoever. Also, within the framework of RED+, the approach that indigenous peoples have worked on states, we want a direct relationship with, in this case, if it's RED+, with those companies that in one way or another want to contribute to this conservation effort. But this conservation effort, the benefit is not only for the indigenous peoples who are there. That benefit brings other co-benefits that have to do with society, but also with humanity on a global level, right? So one of the proposals that has been made to Satriba in this case is, let's have a first experience, okay? In dialogue with, we also want to thank Eco-Registry here for making carbon, right? They say, we want, through these virtual spaces we are creating, as well as spaces for direct in-person interaction, to start building direct relationships with the buyers of carbon credits. So this is the first step they are taking. And for that, we need to make ourselves known. For that, we need to build relationships. Basically, that's what we're trying to do with this space we're creating. Finally, in the country of Colombia, what is currently happening is that the carbon market, yes, specifically the carbon credits, there is a very large accumulation, right? This situation is quite significant, but the financial transaction hasn't been possible yet, right? So looking at that and considering the challenges from the perspective of the Colombian indigenous movement led by OPL, an agreement was reached with the national government to regulate and establish rules for READY+ issues concerning indigenous peoples in Colombia. At this moment, the pre-consultation phase has ended, and the prior consultation phase in the territories is about to begin, with the aim of ensuring, the right to carbon, let's say, that the safeguards are applied as they should be, that we raise the standards, that the reporting and verification mechanism is much more demanding, much more practical, and that we also raise the bar so that within the due diligence that the organization itself, indigenous institutions, the government and companies must carry out, these are effective. But we are also aware that in this regulation, we need to see how it is integrated, right? Article 6 of the Paris Agreement towards the jurisdictional mechanism. So, no, on behalf of to send greetings on behalf of President Oswaldo Muca, the territory coordinator, Carlos Gaitan, right? And our role is to support these processes to make sure things are done right, that we have dialogue, that we think things through. And what's important is that our contributions are recognized, but also the contributions made, the purchases that are made, right? From any sector, any company, those changes that need to be made are reflected, let's say. And also, let's say what we've said is that a day with the Atriba isn't just about this, but that those companies that are there, for example, like in the case of Corredistri or that position, can also go visit and see what we're doing, what results there are. Many times there are results in the field, but since we don't show them through these channels, it seems as if things aren't changing, as if there aren't any results. No, thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mateo, for that intervention. And with that, we'll wrap up this first segment from that perspective. And I would like us to hear in some way how this reality connects with the international perspective. Today we have as a guest Oksana Shelexnova from Carbon Mark, who I think is here precisely because her intervention relates to what we've been discussing about all these organizations and how to connect, let's say, their projects with buyers. So Oksana, welcome. And I would like to ask you, from the perspective of the international market, what do you see? What are those credit buyers looking for when it comes to projects led or headed by indigenous peoples? What elements perhaps inspire more trust? And above all, how can we ensure that value actually reaches those indigenous communities? Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Honestly, it's a huge honor to be here. I love the talk, what the representatives of the indigenous peoples from the Amazon said. Honestly, they opened my perspective. Not that I didn't have it, but I hadn't seen it so closely. And honestly, I truly loved hearing their insightful vision of precisely how they are diligently working on the land, meticulously carrying out all these important projects. In our specific case, we operate a comprehensive global marketplace for verified carbon credits. I have already shared the relevant links in the chat, so for those individuals who aren't very familiar with it yet, you can certainly go there and thoroughly check out the website at your convenience. In our case, what buyers are looking for is, well, there are several things, right? Of course, in the best case scenario, if they have a well-established sustainability department, they're looking for impact, because we all know that companies generate emissions and something needs to be done about that. The process of decarbonizing a company takes time. It requires a certain investment and it can take a while. I mean, it can take a company a year just to gather all the information needed to calculate its carbon footprint. After that, something needs to be done about this carbon footprint. And carbon credits are a tool to start doing something right now, or to support projects like the RED+ ones mentioned here that protect what we already have. Because the company itself, if we look at the entire cycle of construction, production, how many emissions it generates, how much waste it produces, it's actually a monster if we consider the full impact. And if you have a sustainability department, or if in general you are concerned about your impact, investing in this type of project is a way to start offsetting your negative impact right now. Honestly, when compared to many other environmental projects, such as, for example, large-scale afforestation initiatives, these particular efforts focus primarily on effectively restoring already significantly degraded lands and ecosystems. In the case of Rede Plus, it's about protecting lands that are still alive. And I think Indigenous peoples are doing an enormous job in this regard. And we would obviously like to have more projects on our platform to offer to our buyers. Fortunately, since these are projects that genuinely don't require, let's say, as large an initial investment as investing in a completely new and emerging technology, and they are certainly not cases of artificial carbon movement or manipulation, but rather they are fundamentally about living land, specifically living forests and their vital ecosystems. In this case, Ready Plus credits, especially those from communities, from indigenous communities, are very attractive both in terms of price and impact, especially if we showcase all the benefits they offer, as the previous speakers mentioned. That's why I believe everything related to Red Plus will have a lot of demand in the carbon markets. Obviously, since I'm a marketing person, it depends on how we're going to position it and who we're going to sell it to. We're working on this as well. So on one hand, I work with the buyers, trying to understand what they're looking for. And on the other hand, I work with the project developers. And in this particular and important case, our comprehensive offer is specifically designed to give significantly more control and autonomy to those dedicated individuals who diligently work and cultivate the land. I understand that traditional markets, which are managed by intermediaries like brokers or traders, can make people feel like the market doesn't belong to them. In this case, what we're trying to do is give back control over their credits, their resources, and their source of income to those who actually carry out the project. That's why what we provide is the space in our marketplace, the technology that allows them to publish their project, set their own price, transfer credits, in this case from eco-registry to our platform, and sell them to end buyers who can be companies that usually buy in bulk or even individuals. We work with both B2B sales and B2C purchases and sales, right? That is to the end consumer. Anyone with a credit or debit card can go to our marketplace, choose the project they want to support, and buy their credits. In this case, what we do is democratize the carbon market. So anyone who wants to offset their emissions, whether an individual or a legal entity, can do so through our marketplace. And we also have the comprehensive solution of fully automatic, meticulously scheduled offsets through our robust and efficient API. So that's a significant and expansive bit of the overarching vision we currently have for the entire market. And I sincerely hope it will prove to be exceptionally beneficial for all indigenous peoples, ensuring that they can truly feel completely in control of their valuable credits and their important projects by thoughtfully bringing them to our innovative and accessible marketplace.
Well, Oksana, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving us, in any case, that valuable and insightful perspective on the various different technological solutions that effectively connect potential buyers with the relevant projects, right? In that sense, for the commercialization process. Well, now that all the esteemed panelists and distinguished guests are gathered here today, precisely for this important discussion and to bring this significant forum to a comprehensive close, I would like each and every one of you to have a valuable opportunity to speak and share your insights. We have a very brief intervention regarding the question of what would be the most important message you would like to leave today for the market, the international market, based on the experiences of your communities. This is for the indigenous peoples, and let's say based on the experience of the market itself with those technological solutions that bring information closer to buyers and also bring information closer to indigenous peoples. Perhaps we can start with Arve and then move on to Jesus Alberto and finally finish with Matteo and Oksana. I invite you all.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc, for giving me the floor. No, Doctor, well, first of all, I want to thank you again for the invitation and for allowing us to see the carbon markets from another perspective at the territorial level, to see that they are indeed working. Maybe what we're missing are platforms to showcase all the progress we've made, and especially the process that's being carried out hand in hand with the communities. No, I'm very happy. I'd like to invite everyone watching us to find us on Facebook as Asa Trio Informa. We also have our email, and we're ready to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Arve.
Well, on my part, I'm also very grateful to all of you, Oksana, Mateo, Presidenta Arve, and Sara, for this opportunity. From the association, we invite you to have it's a call for optimism. We know that the market has slowed down at this moment, but contrary to what many people currently perceive, sometimes with the prevailing idea that this particular moment signifies the absolute end, we at the association firmly believe that this is in fact a significant and valuable opportunity to meticulously address and rectify the various aspects and processes that regrettably did not function optimally or effectively before. And by diligently correcting these identified deficiencies and making necessary improvements, these incredibly important projects, which have consistently brought forth so many substantial and tangible benefits to numerous communities across the region, will undoubtedly once again be able to achieve much better, more efficient, and more transparent processes for the successful marketing and distribution of those essential certificates. So, thank you all very much for your kind attention, and until our next valuable interaction. Thank you very much.
I think Leonardo was also just about to say something important, perhaps even profound.
I think I'll just add to what Chucho said earlier. My suggestion would be to greet everyone and to encourage greater participation of Indigenous peoples in decision making.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. Mateo, I think you're back now, right? Mateo, what would be your message to the world from this conversation we had today?
I think the message we should take from this dialogue is that we need to, I believe that the indigenous institutions working on REDD+ issues, we need to keep talking among ourselves as well as with the government and with companies. Yes, that allows us to have greater commitment, right? Each one from their own role. And I would also think, let's say, right, to thank you, but also to tell Osaka that maybe we could, I don't know, this week or next week, have a conversation to learn much more about what I do, just like with all the different platforms and institutions that exist in this carbon market chain. On behalf of OPIC, thank you.
All right, Oksana, the ball is in your court now. Mateo.
Yes, of course. I also left my WhatsApp there, so anyone participating in this webinar, if you want to talk more about the technological solutions we offer, you're more than welcome. And my final message would be that technology gives Indigenous peoples the ability to be the ones in control of their credits through technology, that they don't hand that over to traders, brokers, or intermediaries, but instead have a platform where their credits are well represented, securely stored, and clearly visible. And that their project is also clearly visible and the work they do is also clearly visible. And what it also provides is traceability. Both Sarah and I work with blockchain technology, and what blockchain technology offers is the traceability of each credit from its issuance until it is retired from the market. And I think that is also a very important part. It's something that Jesus Alberto briefly touched on, that we need more transparency and more traceability in the market regarding what happens with each credit. That's what we try to provide, both from Ecoregistry and from our side.
Well, thank you very much.
So thank you very much for this invitation. Honestly, it's a huge honor for me to be here with you in this space.
Thank you very much, Oksana, and many thanks to all our panelists and to everyone who stayed attentive and connected during this broadcast. And thanks to those who will continue to make it possible for these spaces to keep happening. An invitation to stay connected through our communication channels, where we will be opening up other spaces to continue, let's say, weaving these dialogues with our different Indigenous peoples who are here developing projects in the field, so that other organizations can also get to know their day-to-day. And so we can have a face-to-face dialogue, not only about commercialization processes, but also about the challenges and concerns surrounding these projects. With that, we bring today's webinar to a close. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.